welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're jumping into something pretty big, personalized learning, using AI in education.
Yeah, it's a hot topic. And if you're listening, you probably want to get up to speed, like, quickly and properly on this.
Exactly. So that's our aim. We're asking this core question. Can these public AI tools, the ones everyone's talking about,
Yeah.
can they really deliver personalized education?
Or are there some serious limitations we need to get our heads around?
Right. And to figure this out, we've got some great material. We're drawing from a report called Public AI Doesn't Know Your Learners, but with Smart Training AI, you can.
And also looking at public versus precision AI in education, another one on public versus smart AI, plus that EdTech Innovation Hub piece on 6 AI trends.
Changing skills in education training forever. Yeah, that one. And also the evolution of AI in education for a bit of background.
So the mission today really is to unpack what public AI can do for personalized learning.
And maybe more importantly, what it can't do. And what other options might be out there. Okay, let's get into it.
So that initial buzz around models like GPT-4 getting into education, well, you can see why, right? They do some pretty impressive stuff.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Having that kind of intelligence on tap for students sounds amazing. And this is where it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
What our sources are showing is, well, there's a big difference between that excitement and what actually happens with real personalization.
Okay.
The main thing is public AI. It's built on this massive but kind of generic data set. It just doesn't have that specific context about the individual learner.
Right. It doesn't know their background knowledge, their learning style, how they're feeling, things a human teacher picks up on.
Exactly. Think about how they're trained. Tons and tons of public text.
Just stuff scraped from the internet, basically.
So it doesn't know that student or that school-specific vibe or the curriculum they're actually following day to day.
It's like it read the entire library but never met a single reader.
That's a great way to put it. And one educator we read put it pretty bluntly. Most AI models were trained on content built around traditional teacher-led practice. That bias is baked in.
And that's huge, isn't it? Because that generic training, it leads to a bias.
Towards what?
Towards those standard, one-size-fits-all teaching methods. The AI hasn't really seen the massive variety of ways teaching actually happens.
Like, say, Montessori versus direct instruction.
Exactly.
Right.
Public AI doesn't inherently get those differences. It just knows the common patterns it saw in all that text data.
So if you ask it to explain something,
You'll probably get something that sounds like it came straight out of a standard textbook, pitched at some kind of, average student.
not tailored for my specific class or my way of teaching.
Precisely. Dan Fitzpatrick from the AI in Education Daily podcast, he said something really sharp. If your pedagogy isn't reflected in the training data, then don't expect the outputs to reflect your classroom.
That really hits home. So the AI reflects the average of its training data, which tends to be traditional stuff.
Yeah. It just doesn't naturally account for all the innovative things educators do. So that lack of diverse teaching styles in the training, it's a real roadblock for genuine personalization.
Okay, so that's the knowledge base, broad but generic.
Yeah.
But the sources also hammer home another missing piece.
The learner context.
Yeah, the specifics about each student.
Exactly. It's not just about the curriculum. Public AI just doesn't have that real awareness of the students themselves. Teachers do this constantly, right? They read the room.
They know who already gets it, who needs help, how someone likes to learn, if they're having a bad day.
All that context. It's vital for adapting on the fly.
But the AI, it's flying blind on that front. One source just says it flat out. Public AI doesn't know your learners.
Simple as that. Doesn't know if one kid needs visuals or another needs to do something hands-on.
And what about memory? Does it remember past interactions?
That's another key point. Generally, no. Not beyond the immediate chat session. So it can't really build on past explanations or track where a student keeps getting stuck.
So it doesn't understand the flow of the curriculum either, like what we did last week.
Nope. It doesn't get that sequencing culture, things that make learning relevant for these kids in this place.
There was this example from the U.S. Department of Education. Really illustrated this well.
Oh, yeah.
Imagine 3 kids make the exact same mistake. But one has a visual issue, one just doesn't grasp the concept.
And the third is maybe just upset about something.
Exactly. A teacher would probably see those different reasons.
And respond differently to each kid. Tailored support.
But a generic AI, it just sees the same wrong answer.
So it gives the same generic feedback to all three,
Yeah.
totally missing the point for at least two of them, maybe all three.
Right. The reports say these models just lack the data, the nuance to handle that context properly.
So basically, public LLMs start out as these incredibly knowledgeable but totally context-blind tutors.
They know facts, general strategies.
But they have no clue which fact or strategy is right for this learner right now.
Which brings us to something that really jumped out at me, this idea of a massive data gap.
Ah, yes. It's not just about not knowing the individual student. It's about how much general educational context is missing too.
How big are we talking?
Well, this book, AI Value Creators, had a stat that just where? Less than 1% of enterprise data is in these public LLMs.
Less than 1%. Okay, so apply that to schools.
Yeah, our sources basically suggest that means virtually 0% of a specific school's unique stuff is in there.
Like the lesson plans teachers spent ages perfecting, assessment data, IEPs, the school culture.
All that crucial stuff, nope, not in the public AI's training data.
So what might it know about a school?
Maybe it's public website, press releases, public reports, basic info.
But the deep stuff needed for personalization.
It's just not there because personalization hinges on understanding that learner profile, right? And the AI starts with none of that.
There was that really blunt quote, AI won't do it for you, you do it by filling in the blanks.
Exactly. And the blanks are all that context, all that data the model just doesn't have.
Like asking an AI for a lesson plan, but giving zero details about your class.
Yep. You'll get a lesson plan, probably generic, maybe a decent starting point.
But you have to do a ton of work to make it fit your students.
Because most of the knowledge needed for real personalization, it lives outside the AI. It's with the teachers, in their heads, in their school's data.
Okay, but it's not all bad news, right? The sources, especially that EdTech Innovation Hub article, they do talk about some AI trends that sound like they could really change things.
Oh, definitely. Despite the limitations of public AI used naively, there's huge potential in how AI could be applied more thoughtfully in education.
So that article, 6 AI trends. What were some of those?
Well, things like intelligent course building, AI helping create customized learning paths.
How would that work?
Imagine an AI selecting readings or activities based on how a student did on previous tasks. But, and here's the catch,
It needs the data first.
it needs the data. It has to know the student's strengths and weaknesses from somewhere. Then there are adaptive learning systems.
The ones that change the difficulty on the fly.
Yeah, adjusting content in real time based on student responses, again, needs that constant data feed.
What else? Virtual tutors.
Virtual AI tutors and mentors giving personalized support, predictive analytics spotting skill gaps.
Suggesting what to learn next. Automated marking with tailored feedback.
Yep, and even AI-powered simulations for immersive, personalized practice. Sounds amazing, doesn't
And
it?
it really does, but
Yeah,
I sense a but coming.
there's always a but. The potential is clearly there, but realizing it. All these cool capabilities rely on data and integration that go way beyond just using a basic public LLM off the shelf.
So that intelligent course builder, it only personalizes if the teacher feeds it the right info. Learner profiles, performance data.
Exactly. The EdTech article is clear on that. You, the user, have to provide that specific data. Otherwise, the AI just defaults back to generic stuff. It can personalize, but you have to give it the ingredients.
And the adaptive systems. They need to be part of a bigger platform.
Right. Something that's constantly collecting and analyzing how the student is doing over time. A standalone public AI used just for one-off questions. It doesn't have that ongoing feedback loop.
It doesn't remember what happened 5 minutes ago, let alone last week.
Precisely. It can't really track progress or adapt its next move based on the student's actual learning journey in a meaningful way.
So the potential for AI personalization is exciting, for sure. But making it happen with these public tools, it really means we have to actively bridge that data gap.
Which brings us right back to the educator, doesn't it?
It seems like it. If public AI lacks the context, then someone has to provide it.
Absolutely. Real personalization using these current public tools, it's not automatic. Teachers have to be actively involved, providing the context, the data, the guidance.
What does it look like practically?
Well, the sources mention things like maybe fine-tuning an AI model with your school's curriculum documents.
Okay, training it on your specific stuff.
Or even just giving the AI really specific info in the prompt. Like, tell it the student's reading level when asking for book ideas.
Or describing the learner. Explain this like you're talking to a 10-year-old who finds science hard. that kind of thing.
Exactly that. It's all about, as we said, filling in the blanks for the AI, giving it the missing pieces it needs.
So teachers need to share insights, strengths, weaknesses, interests, and maybe even spell out their teaching philosophy.
Yes. Tell the AI how you want it to approach the task. Dan Fitzpatrick and his colleagues really hammered this home, the burden of personalization. It falls on the human educators.
They have to bring the data, the expertise, the context to the AI.
That's the phrase. The AI then uses that input to create something more tailored. It's like the teacher is the co-pilot.
Guiding the AI, I like that analogy.
Me too. And someone on LinkedIn summed it up really well. Personalized learning with AI doesn't come from the model. It comes from you.
So the power isn't just in the AI itself.
Not the off-the-shelf version, no. It's in how a teacher uses their knowledge about their students to direct that AI. It really becomes a partnership.
Humans and AI working together. The teacher kind of trains the AI about their specific learners.
Could be giving it examples of student work, maybe fine-tuning smaller models on class assignments. The AI is the tool. The human brings the crucial context and intelligence.
And that quote from the educational leader, "We can't outsource understanding. Real learning still begins with us."
That really nails it, doesn't it? AI can definitely help support, maybe even amplify what teachers do.
But making it truly personal, aligning it with specific kids and goals, that still takes the educator's insight.
Now, the sources don't just stop there. They also talk about an alternative path.
Beyond just prompting public AI better.
Right. They introduce this idea of smart training AI, or STAI. It's pitched as a system built specifically to get around these limitations we've been discussing.
Okay, STAI. How does it supposedly differ from public AI? The report had that comparison table.
It did. Let's look at some key points. Learner context, for instance. Public AI relies on the prompt, right?
What you type in.
Whereas STI apparently uses a profile-based system. It builds a picture of the learner using something called the LSA.
The Learning Style Assessment, a way to understand individual preferences.
That's a big difference right there. Public AI gives generalized answers. SysAI claims over 2,000 adaptive learning style combinations.
2,000, wow. And adaptivity, how the AI changes its responses.
Public AI is pretty static, right?
Yeah.
You get an answer, then you have to ask again. STI supposedly offers real-time adaptation through its AYT system.
Adapt your training.
And data integration. We said public AI isn't built for that.
But STI is designed to link up with learner histories, those style maps.
That's the claim. And then there's privacy and security. Public AI runs on, well, public clouds with general controls.
STI is described as more robust, enterprise-grade, GDPR compliant, AI secured.
Apparently so. And maybe the most interesting claim,
The outcomes. Public AI is often anecdotal, right? People find it useful.
whereas STAI cites an 88% learning improvement in controlled trials.
88%.
Yeah.
That's a very specific and high number. Needs scrutiny, but it's a bold claim.
Definitely. The report also stresses that STAI's approach to learning styles, those 2,000 plus combinations,
It's not just random.
they claim it's grounded in cognitive science, pattern recognition, working memory, cognitive modality, and they specifically contrast it with older, discredited models like VAR.
Okay, trying to establish a more scientific basis.
And they mentioned that 2024 study, 257 people.
What were the results there
64.34% average score jump for the CCAI group after training.
compared to?
Just 34.24% for the group using traditional methods. That's a difference of nearly 88% greater impact for CCAI, according to the study.
Significant numbers. And it can layer on top of existing systems, like an LMS.
Yeah, they mentioned it's designed to integrate, not necessarily replace everything.
It's crucial. We also touch on the cognitive science behind all this. Why does context matter so much?
Absolutely. It really grounds the discussion. Think about cognitive load theory.
How much our brains can handle at once.
Exactly. Our working memory is limited. If generic AI content isn't presented well for you, it can just overload you. Too much effort to process, not enough left for actual learning.
Like juggling too many balls.
Perfect analogy. Whereas personalized learning, done right, can reduce that unnecessary load. And it supports metacognition.
Our awareness of our own learning. Knowing when we get it, when we don't.
Right. When things click because they match how you process information, you're more engaged, more aware, better able to manage your own learning.
And optimizing working memory. Is that about visual versus auditory learners again?
Sort of, but more nuanced than the old styles. It's about tailoring how info is presented visual, verbal, symbolic to match individual processing strengths, making it more efficient.
And pattern recognition.
Aligning content with how someone naturally spots patterns can make understanding faster and deeper. These aren't new ideas, you know? Sweller on cognitive load back in '98, Zimmerman and Shunk on self-regulation.
Foundational stuff. Okay, one more technical term that came up. Fine-tuning. What is that exactly?
So, fine-tuning. Basically, you take one of these big, pre-trained public models.
Like GPT-4 or
Yeah,
similar.
right. And you train it further, but this time using specific targeted data, say your school's curriculum documents or examples of student writing from your context,
The goal being,
to make the AI better at specific educational tasks for you, to align it more closely with your pedagogy, maybe teach it niche knowledge it didn't have, improve its accuracy for your needs.
needs good data though, presumably, and careful handling.
Absolutely. High quality, relevant data is key, and all the ethical considerations around student data still apply, of course.
Okay, so let's try and pull this all together. The big picture seems to be public AI, really exciting potential,
But
but
it doesn't automatically deliver truly personalized learning, not on its own. It lacks that deep individual context. Its training is too generic.
and educators are absolutely key. They have to be the ones to bridge that gap.
By providing the context, the data, the guidance, that human element is still vital for making public AI genuinely useful for individual learners.
And then there are these other approaches emerging, like the smart training AI concept.
Yeah, systems specifically designed to tackle those limitations head-on, using detailed learner profiles, integrating data, adapting in real time, a more precision-focused approach.
So final thought for you listening. While public AI gives us a starting point, maybe a useful assistant,
The real leap forward in personalized learning, it seems like it will come from systems that truly understand the individual learner deeply.
systems guided by data, cognitive science, and crucially, by the expertise and insights of educators.
So maybe reflect on that. How might these different paths, the public AI needing guidance versus these precision systems, impact learning, your own or in education more broadly?
And maybe dig a bit more into those cognitive ideas, cognitive load, metacognition. Thinking about how we learn really sheds light on how AI might best help